In this lesson, we will see how we can distribute objects using geometry nodes in Blender. So we're gonna start building up more complex operations. And before we get into this, I want to just go back quickly to the previous lesson where we basically divided a cube. And every time we divide or we create more faces, we're gonna have more data here, meaning we're gonna have more vertices, more edges, etc., etc. We can use those as grids when we're gonna distribute other objects. So we're gonna talk about creating a series of copies or instances and how we can distribute them like randomly or more precisely. Now we talk about domains. We saw that we have different types of objects essentially. So we have meshes, and down here we also have instances. Now, what are instances? They are basically copies. So instead of copying one thing all over, like Control C, Control V, the usual way, if we create instances, it's going to be better when you're going to do a rendering in Blender. So when you have similar objects or like exactly the same objects copied many times, it's better to use instances. So let me start here with a new general file and let's work in here. So instead of a cube, I'm going to create a plane. So I'm going to delete this and add mesh plane. We can do this, or we can also create something similar inside the node. So let's go inside the node, and we're going to use this to start. Now, when we create a plane, it only has, as you can see here, 4 vertices, and it's going to have 4 edges and 1 face. Really simple geometry. To see this also here, we can switch from object mode to edit mode, and here we can just see the white selection of points, edges, etc., etc. We know this from Blender, like basic Blender. And again, if you're interested in that, you'll find courses in Blender in the channel. So I'm going to go back to object mode, create a new node. Now we are not going to talk about tools. We use the modifier. We already explained the difference between the modifier and the tool in the previous lesson. So I'm going to go forward with the modifier, and also want to expand this panel because it can be handy. And also, again, I'm going to create a new node, and there you go. So we can start now creating what we want to do. So when we want to distribute, we need something to distribute and a surface, in this case, where we want to distribute. Now we can also use other objects or other domains to distribute elements or instances. So I'm going to use this, which is going to be basically a face, and I'm going to use these 4 points. So what I'm going to distribute? I'm going to create the geometry that I want to distribute directly in the node editor. So I'm going to also activate the screencast keys so you can see what's going on. So we can either Shift A, open up the pop-up menu here, or we can go to Add, and we're going to add mesh and primitives. So I'm going to go here with cylinder. Okay, so now we can create our cylinder directly in here. But this cylinder will not be visible because we need to plug it in the geometry here. And so now it's visible, but the plane is not visible anymore. If we want to maintain the two together, well, we cannot do this. You can see that one is gonna take off the other. So we're gonna add Shift A, we're gonna add what is called a join node or join geometry node. And this will basically make you visualize everything. So we have one exit here that is going to be our outputs, but to visualize both the plane and the cylinder, I can plug both in here. You can see there's a larger type of socket in there, so it can host more wires. And now we can see them both. Now I want to decrease also the radius here of the cylinder, and again, creating geometries from here is handy because we can always change it, and everything is procedural. Is what is called procedural modeling. We can see it real time, we can modify it real time, and we can go back and forward, reversible, non-destructive. Okay, now that we create this, you can see it's going in the center where the basically the cursor is, or usually has a built-in values or attributes that will put that in a precise position with a precise size, etc., etc. Those are called built-in values. Okay, now how do we distribute that? Well, of course, we need something else here. We need an indication. So I'm gonna go again, Shift A, and let's search for example, distribution. So you can see here, distribute already, we have some results. So we have distribute points on faces, distribute points on volume, and something about air, which we probably don't need right now. So distribute points on faces is what we want. And let's position here in the middle. So let's read what's happening here. So it's asking for points, and it's asking for a mesh. So with the mesh, I'm going to use the initial plane. And from this mesh, you can see I get 4 vertices, 4 edges, 1 face. And basically the vertices will be considered as points. So now I can distribute using these points, and we need something more. So Shift A, and let's look for instances. And you can see that we have instances on point. So you can also look for instance and point. Be careful, there is 2. So on point, 2 points. Let's go on point. Okay, and we're gonna put this, well, let's put it here. Okay, so we need points, and we can use these points right here, but we can also use directly our geometry, and we can plug this right here. And of course, this is gonna then go into the geometry. And then this cylinder, instead of going directly here, we're gonna put it in the instance. There you go. So now we are visualizing the initial cylinder, the 4 copies that have been put to the 4 points coming from the original plane. And you can see it's getting a little bit more complex. Now we don't really need the source object, the original one. We just need its instances. So I'm gonna take the links cut quickly and just gonna, take that off. All right, so the joint geometry, and let's go back to selection. The joint geometry, let us see the original plane and also the various copies right here. Now, if you want some precise distribution, you can use this, basic exit node and put it into the points. And if you increase the number of points on that plane, so if I select this plane again and I'm gonna go to edit mode, and I'm gonna select that face right there, and I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna subdivide. You can see now I have 4 faces and I have 9 vertices, more vertices. So the more I subdivide, the more that will be multiplied. Okay, so this is kind of a crossover between standard edit mode in Blender and geometry node. Let's go back here. So if I want to instead randomly distribute, not precisely distribute those on points, I can use the distribute points using the faces on faces. So let me make this a little bit bigger, and I'm gonna cut this off, and I'm gonna go through this node. So plug this in here, and you can see the random distribution. Now, when you distribute randomly, you have here the density, and you have the seed. So they can be, distributed in many different ways. And also you can do this other type. So with the minimum, maximum, density, distance, and then density, and again, the seed. So in this case, I want to go and not use this one. I want to use the plane directly. I don't want to use this node at the moment. So I'm just going to unplug this and leave it there. Okay. So let's assume I want to do like a table or a chair or a stool. I can just push this up So what I'm going to do is use the original geometry here that runs on this wire, and we're going to add something we already know, which is set position. So I'm going to go set position, and I'm going to put it in here, and now I can push up this. You can see 1 meter in this case. So this could be like, I don't know, a structure because it's in meters, but let's assume this is going to be like a stool. But you can change all the measure here. It's procedural, so you can change the units, the measures, how many times you want. And now I'm going to also scale these. So Shift A and scale. So, go for the logic. So what I'm going to use here, well, just, scale, simple scale will be fine. Okay, but be careful on the color. This color doesn't work with green, so I cannot put this in here. It's going to give me an error. So when this happens, just look for something similar. So we can go instance scale, for example, or mesh operation scale. This will definitely work. You can see everything is green, and now I can scale this up. I can make it bigger. I also want to extrude this, so I want to give it like a thickness because now it's completely flat. So I'm gonna go and Shift A, extrude, mesh. And again, similar things can be found in standard Blender. So you just need to know the names. And let's offset this. So you can see I created a small table and it's missing something here. So I can join the original geometry here with the other, and I need actually to use this one here. That was the one we moved up, or the scale, even better. Okay, so you can see we create a cup. We don't need these others. I'm going to use now a series of instances like the cylinders to distribute other instances. So this is called nesting. So let's try to make things more organized. And we have the instances down here. You can see we have like 2 paths. So down here we have the paths of the cylinders. And I want to use now these cylinders to distribute points on faces. So I'm going to plug this in right here. And I want to distribute some spheres. So Shift A, mesh, primitives, and let's create some UV spheres. So this will be the distributed object, and I will use this random distribution right here. So what we need again is the same node that we used before. So instance on points. So I'm gonna Control C, Control V, copy this, put it in here, and use the points as a reference for distribution, and then the mesh as the object to be instanced and copied all around. And again, we need to join everything into the geometry, the final geometry. Okay, now we can see these 4 big spheres, and we're just gonna play around with the random. So I'm gonna change this to random. I'm gonna, of course, I'm gonna go back to the UV sphere. I'm gonna make this really small, well, smaller than it is. Okay, and now I can go up here, increase the density, and I'm gonna have like it's like a molecule something. Play around with the density, and again play around with the radius. And as we know by now, we can just go back and forward to play as many times as we want. Once everything is procedural, it's going to be fun to play around with the various parameters and obtain different results. So random and precise distribution. There is another node we can use for distribution, and it's a grid. Well, actually we can use more, but another one that can be helpful is the grid. So I don't need to subdivide the plane. I can just use here the values for the vertices on the x and the epsilon axis to generate subdivision. So if I put this in here, you can see the grid is right there. It looks like a plane, but it's a grid. And now I can position there whatever I want. So let's say I want to position the sphere. So I'm going to take these 2 nodes together, hold the Shift, Control C, Control V, copy, put it in there. Okay, and this is going to be the distributing object. And of course, to see it, let's push this output further and take all the wires with us and plug this in also. And there you go. Now we can see those instances. Now we can also use position to move this or transform. So I'm going to transform geometry and plug it in here and just put this up to make it visualize in there. There you go. Okay, we can do it visually, we can do it precisely with the numbers. All right, now what if we want to put in this scene something that is not internal but external? We want to import some geometry. Let's do it. I'm going to use Polyaven for this, which is a website where we can find a lot of assets we can use freely, so you can support. And I'm going to go here to models, and I'm looking for bottle. So I'm going to get this file with the bottles. You can download it. I downloaded it directly in Blender. So once it's downloaded, you just need to extract it and it's going to open up in Blender. Let me show you something. Well, once it's downloaded, I just extracted the folder right here. So you right click, extract, or you double click, enter, copy and paste outside the zipped folder, the content. And you should find textures and you should find the Blender file. So double click on the Blender file. And that's the quickest and way you can do this. And just delete what you don't need. Take what you need. Be careful also on the origin. Origin is important, is where the things will be positioned. So here is good because it's at the base. Sometimes you will find it in the middle, so you need to move it manually. And again, everything is explained in other video courses, in other video guides about Blender. So I'm going to Control C, copy this, Control C, close this up, and just go back here, Control V, and there you go. There you go. So it's on the grid, it's down there, but we want to put it up here. So we're going to substitute the sphere with this object. We need another node. So let's see where the spheres are right here. So I'm next to this. I'm going to go Shift A, and let's look for the info object, or object info. Input scene, meaning that we can input something directly from the scene. So what we're going to input, an object that is going to be inserted here. So if you click, you can select directly from this list, or you can click on the picker and pick directly the object that you want. So you have two ways you can do this. Once you select it, you can say also as instance, you can take these and just substitute the spheres. And now we can just delete the spheres. We're just going to use the bottles. And there you go. They need some fixing though. So, well, we can just use the same transform node, because here we also have the position and also the scale. So you can scale this. You can also hold Shift, click, and drag the left mouse to scale all at once. So we can say like 4, or we can again hold Shift, click with the left mouse, and well, select all 3 and then move the mouse. So hold the Shift, hold the left mouse, and just, you see here, make it a little bit bigger. So scroll, move the mouse. Okay, so they are now looking with the same size. So let's do it manually right now, and then hold Shift, click, and change it, or hold Shift, click, and drag. All right. Now we can just go back and also change the grid, because we can increase the number of bottles. We can also increase and decrease the size of the grid. And to put this up a little bit more, because they're a little bit inside, we're gonna use just the translation up. Okay. And again, you continue to play around with this. You can also render everything. Just give it some time to calculate the texture and everything. And there you go. So this will be all for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe to stay updated, join the channel to support us and get also some advantages. And also check the other courses in Wonder in the video course. Thanks for watching and see you in the next.